So it is time for the Premier League review. First up, we're going to be diving in to the big game on Saturday night between Liverpool and Leeds United. Liverpool have been struggling this season. I think it's fair to say Sadio Mane left the club. His goals, his pressing, his intensity has been missed. Of course, Leeds United escaped the relegation zone with Jesse Marsch last season, but see themselves in 18th position in the Premier League. So I think there's a few question marks for both sides, who starts, who comes in, and how both teams tactically interact in this game. I think the first thing that's quite interesting from a Liverpool perspective, injuries have been a massive problem for Liverpool this season. You think about how many injuries they've had. Obviously, Luis Diaz is out right now, Jota's out right now, Arthur's out for pretty much 3-4 months. Naby Keita's been basically on the treatment room the whole time. Same with Oxlade-Chamberlain and Curtis Jones. Liverpool have really struggled in midfield, but also in defence. Joel Matip and Konate and Robertson all been out. But I think the big thing for Liverpool, in the sort of coming months, obviously the World Cup comes, and they should have a pretty fit complement when they return after the World Cup. But big news coming out today is Thiago is fit and set to return versus the Liverpool team against Leeds. And I think that's an interesting one because Liverpool have played a number of different shapes in recent weeks. You know, we've seen Liverpool play kind of a 4-4-2. With Salah deep, with Salah high, with Nunez in that striker position, with Salah in that striker position. But from an interesting perspective, in the Champions League versus Ajax, they went with basically a kind of 4-3-1-2 shape, or a 4-4-2 diamond, with two very much central strikers. Salah not playing from the right-hand side, but Salah very much playing up on the centre-backs. And I think that could be the one for Liverpool. I thought the 4-4-2 would be the one for Liverpool, but I think injuries with both Jota and Luis Diaz being injured means that is no longer applicable. But now I think this 4-4-2 diamond could look quite good. I think it gets the best out of their two sort of main goal threats. Obviously, Darwin Nunez is a centre-forward, a natural number 9, a player that's going to spin in behind, that's going to get in the channels, that's going to get behind the defence. I think that he could play from the left-hand side. I think he could play as a number 9 in a 4-3-3, but at the moment, he's definitely suited to having a partner. He's very raw. His touch isn't quite good enough at the moment. So having two players in and around him in Mohamed Salah and Roberto Firmino, I think that works out quite nicely as a very narrow front three, two strikers and a number 10. Firmino's fantastic at finding little pockets of space, left, right, deep, sort of south. He's very, very attentive when he's doing his pressing as well. And it will allow Liverpool to play a little bit more direct and play into the feet of the forwards and allow those guys to play off. And Salah is starting to get back into form. 10 goals in all competitions and 6 assists so far for Liverpool. And I think him playing in this more sort of inside forward position suits his game as well. The thing that I would also like to say, I think Harvey Elliott, obviously he's been playing wide right in this kind of 4-4-2 shape, but I think he also looks quite good in this right-sided central midfield position in the diamond. I think one of the things that we saw against Ajax was both Henderson and Elliott playing a little wider than you'd expect a three-man midfield to do, and I think that's kind of where Liverpool could get to in the future. I think it gives Trent and Robertson a little bit more support. You've also got the danger of Darwin Nunez and Salah in that central area. Obviously, for the game this weekend, they face a Leeds United team that is massively underperforming its expected points. If you look at the expected points for Leeds United in the Premier League this season, they should in fact be around 14th position, which is a stark contrast to where they are in the league. You know, they should be 4 places higher, comfortably sitting in mid-table, but they've not been taking their chances, and that's been a big problem. They've obviously had injuries at centre-forward as well. Rodrigo, Bamford have been out this season. And I think that the benefit of those guys, you know, being in the team, Rodrigo, Bamford, either with one ahead of the other or, you know, one of them linking the play and one of them playing high, allows Leeds to press a bit better. Under Jesse Marsch, Leeds very much have been playing a 4-4-2. They're super aggressive out the blocks, arguably defend as a kind of 4-2-4 in a sense with the amount of pressing they do. That's, you know, their style. They're very much a gegen-pressing side that they will squeeze Van Dijk, they will squeeze the fullbacks super high up the pitch. But I think the tactical side of this is that Liverpool, with the width in their midfield, if they do continue with this kind of, you know, the wide diamond, is it will cause massive problems for Leeds' midfield. of covering the players, and then Firmino in between the lines. I think this is a big opportunity for Liverpool to play this diamond shape, to utilise the two forwards and Firmino to get behind the midfield, because think if we're playing left here and then you've got Adams jumping onto Henderson, you've got Rocker jumping onto Fabinho. Already if Elliott drops, you've created an overload, or alternatively if Firmino drops into a position to receive, you've got positions. I think the beauty of having Nunez and Salah high is you can basically pin the entirety of your opponent's back four. And for this game, obviously for Leeds United, it will open up that space. They need to have that sort of fear of those two spinning in behind. Or alternatively, if they do play high, like we've seen Leeds do time and time again under Bielsa, under Jesse Marsch now, there'll be so much space for Liverpool to, clip balls into the channels. I think from, Van Dijk and from Trent Alexander-Arnold be the two areas I'll be looking at in this game for Liverpool to kind of utilise those positions. The big thing, of course, Mohamed Salah, he has been in mixed form this season, but he's got a fantastic record against Leeds United. In the 6-0 win at Anfield last season, Salah grabbed himself 2 goals and an assist, all from kind of the striking positions we're talking about right now, hence why I feel like it's going to really work in this game. If we look at Liverpool's average positions in this game, it was very much 4-3-3 in the 6-0. Or take you back to the 4-3 from a few seasons ago. Salah grabbed himself a hat-trick. Look how deep that heat map is in the penalty area. I do believe that this diamond will kind of get the best out of Liverpool, will open up a lot of space for them to play through, and arguably go on to see them win the game simply. Right, the second game that we are going to be looking into in the Premier League preview this week will be Arsenal versus Nottingham Forest. Arsenal in a bit of a weird spell. Because of the high standards they've set this season, Arsenal, you'd say, are having a little bit of a wobble. A 1-1 draw with Southampton last weekend in the Premier League, and then lost 2-1 to PSV in the Europa midweek. I don't think there's cause for concern. I think maybe in terms of the tiredness, we're seeing a little bit of a fatigued Arsenal squad, having to play Premier League, Europa. Obviously, Arsenal squad is good, but that's strenuous on any football club. The one thing I would say about the performance against Southampton, though, last week, I thought Arsenal was sublime, especially in that first half. And I think that is a big thing that they've got to take from that game. When Arsenal are on top, to be Premier League champions, they have to put the ball in the back of the net. They have to do the hardest thing in football, but they created enough. You think Gabriel Jesus had enough chances against Southampton. You think that the interplay with Odegaard, you think that there's a cross into him as well that he headed wide. I think there were opportunities for him to score. Look at Arsenal's build-up shape. It's absolutely fantastic. You got Tomiyasu, number 18, inverted, joining Partey at defensive midfield. You got your 5 attackers. It is glorious. They just need to take their chances. I think it's as simple as that. When they're on top, they need to put the ball in the back of the net. And arguably, you'd say it was probably the worst performance from their front three collectively. Gabriel Jesus missed 2 big chances in the game. Saka got booked. Didn't have a shot on target. Didn't create a single chance. I think Martinelli was probably the live wire out of it, but probably didn't get enough possession. Only completed 12 passes in the game. Went on one really good run on the inside that opened up a good move for Arsenal. But it almost feels like, there's a little bit more that we want, a little bit more effort from those forward guys in terms of, creating a big enough chance and finishing it off. I think the rest of the team played very, very well against Southampton. So I don't think there's any real concern for Arsenal for me. It's just about getting the job done and maybe finding that kind of inner strength to win ugly, in a sense. That's a classic cliche for football pundits, but I think it's quite apparent right now. Arsenal need to kind of get through to the World Cup and maybe win ugly on their way to kind of getting there. That's something that I'd kind of say for them to kind of do. It's going to be a massive game against Forest. Forest have shown in recent weeks real quality and being difficult and horrible to play against, but getting results. The expected goals that they've conceded in the last few games been much better. That's been a humongous improvement for them. So it will be a bit of time for Arsenal to have to, open them up. The one thing I would say, though, in recent games for Nottingham Forest. One of the games where they were really, really opened up was against Manchester City when they lost 6-0. The big thing I'd say for Arsenal is that City and Arsenal play quite a similar way in terms of their style. Arteta obviously worked under Guardiola. They're stylistically very, very similar. Possession play with a focus on moving your opposition one side, then creating options and opportunities to break through the middle. That day, of course, Julian Alvarez brace, Haaland hat-trick. Arsenal do not have Haaland, but they've got a lot of quality in the attack. Obviously underperformed last weekend. In terms of the tactical setup for Nottingham Forest, they've been defending in a really sort of compact, deep, or arguably like a sort of narrow 4-3-3 or a 4-4-2 diamond, dependent on where Gibbs White's playing. So for this game, for Arsenal, it's about unlocking the door. And I think one thing that we've got through Arsenal, over the last few months, is they've really got an ability to unlock the door. Their attacking shape is very, very good. Xhaka moves into number 10 area. Odegaard switches inside right. Whether we'll see Tierney play, and Gabriel is a concern for this week. We've got him out at the moment, but he should play. I reckon he will come back into the 11. So Tierney will play slightly more inside. Ben White will play kind of in that kind of high position, part of the back three, and it's all about how they kind of unlock the door. It will be about kind of stretching the midfield, trying to pull the midfield over to one side of the pitch with the ball, and then either switching it quick through Partey or looking for balls in behind for Gabriel Jesus to run onto. Movement inside 1-2s with Granit Xhaka, or kind of playing through quickly to that other side. I think it's all going to be about quick play. And I would say that the two dangers for Forest from a goal scoring perspective, I'd say Granit Xhaka and Odegaard. I'd say this is a game where I think Odegaard's going to score. You just think about the space that Julian Alvarez got in the box in the inside right channel against Forest. That day Forest played a back three, so they were a little bit more open in midfield. So they're going to be far more compact. But Odegaard running off Karte and maybe feeding Gabriel Jesus, I think that could be the where the sort of they unlock the door against Arsenal. The one sort of threat you've got, obviously that front three looked really, really good on the break in the transition against Liverpool, and that's something that Arsenal really need to deal with. It's going to be massive. These sort of back five players for Arsenal, Partey, Tierney, Gabriel, Saliba, Ben White, have arguably got their kind of own little mini game. Karte showed great ball carrying ability against Liverpool, but also an ability to create chances driving through midfield. So him joining the front guys on the counter-attack is going to be big. It's going to be how Ben White and Tierney react to them losing the ball and getting back into shape, but also the rest of the team as well. Xhaka, Odegaard, Martinelli. I think Arsenal have shown a really good ability to collectively defend under Arteta this season. It's going to be attack versus defence, and really how we see the counter-attacking nature. I mentioned Carter before, created 3 chances versus Liverpool, more than any other player on the pitch. And it was that box-to-box nature on the right hand, on the left-hand side. So Arsenal's right, carrying through and driving through the middle is going to be a big threat. We mentioned Morgan Gibbs-White as well. He looks like the most creative player for Forest. He missed a big chance in the game against Liverpool. It could have been, three goals for Liverpool. They finished against Liverpool. They finished with an expected goals of 2.51, which was the best they've managed in the league this season. They are a threat on the break, and Arsenal really need to manage that. I would say that with Arsenal, the form has dropped off a little bit, but they're still creating enough chance. I think if Gabriel Jesus, is gifted enough opportunities in this game, I think Arsenal will be absolutely fine and go on to win the match. So on to the third game of today's Premier League preview. It is Manchester United versus West Ham in the league. West Ham have shown some really good form under David Moyes in his tenure as manager, and they're always going to be a tricky opponent. Manchester United's build-up in the league this season has been very, very good. Playing out from the back, we're starting to see some interplay, some rotation, and some really good football. But I think the final third is where Man United need to do some work. So we're going to look at where United need to, how United need to create against West Ham, how they need to build up, how they play over the press. So let's dive into the tactics of this game. So the first thing that Manchester United need to do against West Ham United is play through or over their press. West Ham United, as we mentioned, press with their kind of front 4 players. They like to squeeze the ball, but the back 6 are in defensive positions. So what United need to do, they need to either go over the ball like Bournemouth did, clipping balls into, either number 10 or looking to play on the second ball. Or Man United, of course, their play out the back is a lot better. So number one, West Ham, they like to squeeze, they like to force you high and force you into positions to basically go long. Then, of course, Kurt Zouma, 91% of his aerial duels won, can clean up. From this position, there's a little bit of a broken side where there is space between West Ham's midfield and their attack. Bournemouth in this situation had 4 players in between the lines. Man United like to do that at times when they go long with Rashford, with Bruno, with Sancho. We can see it from a tactical perspective. This type of clip where United technically could have these 4 players in between the lines, which I think will give them a big advantage from an attacking perspective. From that position, obviously, Bournemouth won the second ball, and then they were on West Ham's back 6 players. You're thinking throwing fullbacks into the attack. You've got your 2 central players. You've got your forward from the other side as well. Which obviously is an easy entry into the final third. As we mentioned, West Ham in this position, they drop back to a narrow back 4, and they look to allow you to cross and win the aerial duel. So that's where United could really get at West Ham. And you're thinking from this right-hand side, there's opportunity to get the ball in the box. You can see here that there's a 3v3 in the penalty area in the match versus Bournemouth for West Ham. But the big thing we mentioned before, Kurt Zouma, absolutely dominant in these aerial situations. He wins this header and completely kills the attack. So Manchester United need to look over Zouma or play short. So when I talk about that, obviously from a crossing perspective, crossing works as, you're swinging balls in from wide and left. And the area that you basically don't want to play in is the space in between Zouma and Timo Kehrer, or the space between Ben Johnson and Kurt Zouma. So either of those areas you really don't want to play into. You don't want to play into that area, or you don't want to play into that area. So let's say we're crossing from the right-hand side, United need to be making the move from central behind Timo Kehrer and crossing to the near post. Or alternatively, from the left-hand side of the pitch, United want to be slinging it to that back stick and having runners off the back of Timo Kehrer or Anthony pull into attack the back post. That is how you can get at West Ham United. Of course, Manchester United did score a goal against Sheriff from a crossing position. But this would be an area where United should not be crossing in between the 2 centre-backs, because that's where Kurt Zouma really, really deals with the threat, well in these positions down the side. You've got, a great ball winner in Kurt Zouma, and that's his position that he will attack. You can see here, obviously, Ronaldo gets in between the 2 Sheriff defenders, but that's something that won't happen against West Ham United. But let's move on to Liverpool, and let's have a look at how they broke West Ham United down. This was more crossing from the left-hand side and then attacking that back post or the defender from a kind of tactical level. We've got our West Ham back 4 deep. They crossed from the left-hand side, which there appeared to be quite a bit of space on, but they were looking to hit either that region there with Timo Kehrer, second post, or Cresswell. They're playing beyond that kind of Kurt Zouma position where he likes to, dominate the ball. So for Liverpool, obviously we've got West Ham in their kind of 4-4-2 shape. They've not been pressing in this moment. They're in a better defensive kind of mid-block. Liverpool look to go wide to Tsimikas. And because of the narrow nature of West Ham's shape, you have space when you're crossing from fullback, and that allows your left back to get the head up and find an area. As we mentioned previously, we don't want to be crossing the ball to Kurt Zouma. Kurt Zuma's going to be, the guy that's going to be dominant in those positions. So you want to be playing over him, either into the channel between Kehrer and Cresswell, or even behind it. Both positions are good against West Ham United. Tsimikas goes for, hits it on lands it on Timo Kehre's hair. Darwin Núñez gets up behind the zone that Kurt Zuma's dealing with and scores a really good goal. And that's something that United could work out on that left-hand side. We're talking either Luke Shaw or Sancho cutting in and crossing, and then, either Bruno or Anthony attacking that back stick. I'd probably like Bruno to be the guy. Bruno kind of deceptively good in the air, but those balls to the back post are exactly what you want from the left-hand side and a really good way to get at West Ham, as Liverpool did with Darwin Núñez. Let's take a look at an example that Man United had against Sheriff. The Marcus Rashford goal is a great example of getting away from Kurt Zuma's zone. We spoke about, the space between him and his right back. We've spoken about the space between him and his centre back. The other way of getting at Kurt Zouma would actually be dropping the ball or cutting the ball back or crossing the ball back to the midfield zone. When we're talking midfield zone, from a tactical perspective, we are looking at Zouma dropping deep and defending the near post, and basically the area here where we've got the cones. So that's where usually your defensive midfielders are going to be. So, having one that's getting drawn to the ball maybe and then one that's in there. I think these types of zones are kind of perfect for either cutbacks or hitting the post. If there's movement that can be made from, let's say, from Bruno to draw Souček and then Rashford arriving late, could be a really good opportunity for United to attack. And that's exactly what United did against Sheriff. And again, a good thing, positional play, right to left, pulling the opposition right, hitting them down the left-hand side is perfect against West Ham. We could see this move, Ronaldo moving to McTominay, Christian Eriksen in absolute massive amounts of space. We saw Sheriff frequently kind of create a back six at times with their back four and their two wingers going wide, which opens up big space for United to move the ball to the left. But again, what we're seeing in this position, the fullbacks come out and the player that was in the fullback position coming out. We've got the centre halves kind of defending the zones, but the cross wasn't on the back line. The cross was on the midfield line from Luke Shaw, straight to Rashford's head. Off the defenders for him to attack. And that's exactly what United need to do against West Ham to really kind of open up that option to kind of create chances. Either crossing it to the back post or the back stick or dropping it off the line a little bit, I think is two ways where you can really get at this West Ham team. I think from a attacking perspective, Ben Rama's been in great form in recent weeks. Was very good against Bournemouth, was tricky, was creative, caused Bournemouth a lot of problems on the carry, completed 5 of his 6 dribbles, had 8 shots on goal, pulled quite a few just over the bar in really dangerous positions. He's a threat for Manchester United, especially on the counter-attack in this game. Jarrod Bowen might miss the game. He's got an ankle injury, late fitness test, which is great news because Jarrod Bowen is one of West Ham United's better players in the league this season. So definitely it's good to hear that. United dealing with Scamacca is a little bit of a worry. From a tactical perspective, we know that West Ham will get Cresswell super high in an attacking sense. Ben Rama's going to be in the inside channel. And then you've got Scamacca and Bowen providing kind of that 2 goal scoring position. So United need to be very, very quick to stop the cross from Cresswell, or Scamacca will have an absolute field day, or Jarrod Bowen on the back post. The other option, obviously, United are going to be dealing with Scamacca on the counter-attack. Big balls up to him, into his feet. The 2 centre halves need to be super aggressive at engaging Scamacca in these areas. I think that's going to be a big part of how United win the game. We spoke about the crossing, the creation, but dealing with Scamacca and Jarrod Bowen and then Cresswell and Ben Rama, it's going to be big for the game. I think this one goes the way of Manchester United. I think they've shown some really good stuff in recent weeks. I think that pressing situation, catching West Ham high up the pitch and then utilising the space that's created is going to be big in this match. But I think United win. So thanks for watching, guys. Get all your score predictions down below. I want to see you knocking around in the comments. Of course, subscribe if you are new around here. Check out SofaScore, the greatest place for all your football stats needs. Anyway, see you next time.